Hey folks, thanks for stopping by. I am out in the bee yard today getting ready to winterize the hives. One of the biggest killers, winter killers of beehives is moisture in the winter. Of course, you know, the freeze and the thaw, the moisture coming up from the bees sort of rises to the top on the lid. And if that condenses and falls back down onto the cluster, we run the risk of those bees freezing, even if they have plenty of food and they're healthy. And so one of the things that I like to do is to use these moisture boards. These are really affordable. I get them from Man Lake. When I got these, they were less than $10 a piece. And so what I like to do is to take the lid off the top, and I put this right over top of the inner cover. And then you can actually see little indentations right here. I like to use chopsticks. Even though it's cold in the winter, we still want airflow. We still want to be able to have fresh air coming in the bottom as well as escaping through the top. So I put these 3 chopsticks here on the top, just like this. And that puts just a little bit of an air gap between the lid, which also prevents some of the moisture from dripping down. This is very absorbent material. It will start to powder up and disintegrate if it gets too wet, and so I like to make sure that they're dry in the summer when I'm not using them. I also use these when I'm collecting honey. I use them sort of at the bottom to prevent any honey from dripping. And so something else that I do is put an entrance reducer on the front. We do want to maximize airflow, but we don't want drafts. Again, that would chill the cluster and possibly cause their demise. And so I put these entrance reducers right in the front along with the moisture boards on top, and that gives us some natural airflow without drastically cold drafts. And so I'm just going to get busy. Something else I like to do too is just to make sure that they have plenty of honey to get through the winter. Some hives are better than others. Sometimes I will redistribute honey frames from one hive to the other. The one thing that I have to worry about, and this is always in the back of my mind, is a robbing situation. I've talked about these before. And so this time of year, there's not much in bloom, but we do have several nice days in the forecast coming up. And so lots of honeybees are flying out. And of course, there's plenty of wild hives around here as well. That's where all of these came from, swarms that were local to this area. And so I try to not have any, I like to call them open wounds, try to make sure that I don't actually open any of the wax cappings to prevent, the scent of honey from being in the air, which would attract robbers. And so I try to be very careful about that. Accidents do happen. This time of year, I like to make sure that they have plenty of honey. I've got 2 boxes on most of these because I haven't had a chance to get into the hives. And so I'd like to reduce them each down to 1 box. I just need to be very cognizant of robbing situations. And although it's very chilly today, the bees are out and active. It's in the 50s. And so it's very windy though. And that wind will carry the scent of honey far away. And so I just want to make sure that we don't do that. And so I'm going to get busy, but essentially I'm just going to go hive to hive and see what's going on, get them winterized. It's November now, so I want to make sure that we're all ready for winter, make sure all the hives are doing well, and they're healthy to go into winter so that we have good survival rates. I have plenty of white pines on my property, and so it was really easy to get a big pile of pine needles this year. This is what I'm going to be using today, so I'll get my smoker going. And so the smoke is used to mask their natural pheromones, which are hormones they emit through the air for many things. They're alarm pheromones if something's attacking the hive. The queen and the workers and the brood all emit pheromones for communication purposes, and the smoke confuses that, and so helps to prevent aggressiveness in many cases, or to essentially just calm them down just a bit. For the smoker, I like to use a piece of paper. I put that right there in the bottom. I'll get that lit, and then I add handfuls of pine needles, hopefully to keep it burning for a long period of time. Just give it a little bit of oxygen there, pumping the bellows. So again, I like to make sure that it's burning really well. We don't want a hot fire. We just want a cool smoke. And I typically don't use them much at all, just if I need to. And so again, we're not trying to get a fire, just smoke. And so that's why you pack it down in there. There we go. So you get nice smoke, not too hot. All right, let's get ready. The lids are usually stuck pretty good with propolis, so we'll see what we've got going here. All right, this hive is a little low on stores, and so I'm going to close it back up and probably try to steal a few frames. They have plenty of honey dye. You can see the cluster right here in the middle brood box. So I'm not too technical, but what I like to do is sort of lift the hive. Yeah, feels quite heavy, so they have plenty of honey down below. If I can get some extra frames from some of the other hives, I'll give them some. Otherwise, I may just end up removing this top box just so that it's less space for them to defend. But I'm going to close them up now so that I don't attract robbers. Right now, I'm just going to put a moisture board on them so in case I have to get back in them, it'll be a little bit easier. But I don't want to attract lots of wasps out this time of year. So I'm just going to leave them like that for now and move on to the next hive. This one doesn't have very much honey in it. Heavy they are. They have a good amount of honey there, so not too much in here. All right, so it looks like most of their honey is concentrated right here in the center of this one, and the same thing with the top box. So what I'm going to try to do is just redistribute a little bit and get all of their working honey into this one here. Plus they have some down here in the hive body. And so that's what I'm going to work on and try to get everything just right and not to attract any robbers. It's called a J-hook, and that helps you remove the frames. This is still clean from when I extracted honey in the summer, so I'm going to try to remove these empty ones and switch them out with any that have honey in the other box. That's a hive beetle. I always kill those when I see them. Everything's moving a little slowly because it's been a cool morning. So they're a little bit interested in that spot right there. There's a little bit of honey left. Nectar, actually. I don't think they've got it worked down to honey, so I'm going to leave that one in there and see what's going on. Yeah, there's just a few beetles in there and some nectar. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one in. So yeah, they have a bit of nectar in here as well. All right, so I got these girls reduced down to one box. And the reason I want to do that is because that is just empty space that they have to worry about defending or taking care of throughout the winter. And so if I can get them down to just the 2 hive bodies down here at the bottom, I'll get in there and look because I don't want to disturb them this time of year and disturb all the propolis. And so here's the moisture board. And again, we don't want the moisture from their respiration, of course, to rise on top of the lid and then condense and fall back down on them, because that would freeze the cluster. That happened the first year I started keeping bees, and it was real discouraging. And so first I want to put their inner cover back on. So their inner cover, they will still have this upper entrance right here. And put this moisture board on. Nope. Do you want to go in or stay out? So again, I add chopsticks. They are great spacers. Just to make sure there's still a little airflow. Gives it a chance, so if moisture does form on the lid, you can see in the past where moisture has formed on the lid. And so to prevent that from falling back in, of course, this moisture board will catch it. But we want to make sure that there's airflow so that it dries up. And so that's why I use these chopsticks. They still have their upper entrance out here in the front. I'll put their lid on. So I still just make sure that that's pushed forward so that they can get in and out. All right, so I'm going to put their entrance reducer on. Sometimes they're a little snug. I'll put these empty frames together and just cover these honey supers up with my other spare parts. Still a few bees in here. I'm going to try to smoke them out, see if I can get them before I store this. There's some wasps in there too. Shades blow off, so I always have a rock on here just in case, so that we don't lose the top in a big windstorm. And so now I'm just going to repeat the process with the remaining hives, and hopefully they all look as good as this one did. Going to refill my pine needles before I get going. All right, should be good. Definitely no honey in this top box. This was an extra box that I put on after I did the first harvest, and so I didn't expect them to have much honey in it at all anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and put this with my empties. There's just only a few bees in there, which I usually get out in the evening. There's a wasp. All right. Let's see what we've got in the second box. Let's see what the hive feels like all over. Okay. They are not very heavy. Much like the first hive, there's not much in that top box, but they've got some down in here, so I'm going to see if I can get some. I'm pretty sure the purple hive next to this is full, so I'm going to see if I can get some frames for them to put in here. So this hive has always been pretty strong and very defensive. Knocking on the boxes, they actually sound like there's plenty of honey in these too, so we'll see what we've got. Feels pretty heavy, maybe 15 pounds or so. See what the next box feels like. looks like they have quite a bit of honey here. I'll see how heavy the hive is. Yes, it's very heavy. So I'm going to use the excess in here and spread out to the other hives so that they have extra for the winter. You can see there's mostly, let's see if it'll show up. You can see right down in here, those are frames full of capped honey. And so it looks like they have a fair amount to get them through the winter. The box, the whole hive feels extremely heavy. So I'm going to go ahead and just winterize them and use their spares for the other hives. I don't want to break the propolis seal, and so I'm not going to try to take this box off. I feel like this is a really good, strong hive that's going to make it well through the winter. All right, so what I'm going to do here is take this lavender hive. There's, like I said, there's probably a good 10 or 15 pounds here. And so I'm just going to switch these out with the spare yellow box and see if I can get them in before we attract any robbers. What I'm doing is leaving the end frames intact. That usually acts like a little bit of an insulator, and so that's what I'll do, is just replace the inside frame. Yeah, there's nice honey in here, and that'll be great for this hive since they didn't do as well. This was actually a swarm, so it doesn't surprise me that they don't have a lot of honey. I didn't take any honey from them. Yeah, there's a nice amount of honey in there. Looks like it's all dark goldenrod honey, which is a shame. I like to have a little bit for myself, but I'm not going to take any from these bees. Last one, just a little bit in there. They should be happy to have some extra honey for the winter. Yes, that feels much better. Get her inner covering. I feel much better about them now. I always worry about the swarms not making it, but I think it'll be okay here in this case. All right, so I'll get these other empties put back in here and put that over with my stack over on the side of spare parts, and they will be ready for spring swarms. They are clean and dry, good to go. That's one of the great benefits of having multiple hives, is that I can mix and match resources if necessary so that everybody does better over the winter. All right, so I like to use these entrance reducers. That minimizes drafts. They still have their upper entrance and they still have their lower entrance, but this does a couple of things. So it minimizes draft and also lets them defend a smaller space in the event of robbers or even critters like skunks and such. This hive's really heavy. They have plenty of honey. This hive is always very defensive. They were a wild swarm that came to me without any effort of my own. I just had an empty hive and the swarm came in from surrounding hives. Yes, they are full. So they're getting really defensive. I'm just going to leave them a couple of full frames and get out of here. Yeah, I can hear them getting angry, so I'm going to hurry. Always keeping an eye out for the queen too, and make sure I didn't grab her by accident. All right, all the hives are done, winterized, and the honey frames redistributed to try to equalize every single hive so that they have the best chance of survival over the winter. They're a little disgruntled right now because I've reduced their entrance and they're probably fighting off a few robbers, but hopefully everything should calm down in the next hour or so. They should still have several warm days to reapply any propolis and close up any air gaps that they choose to. Okay, they are all winterized. I think they should get through the winter. And we'll hope for the best. See how the weather goes.